Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and if battery life is the most important thing for you when you're looking for a cell phone, this Droid phone from Motorola and Verizon is probably going to be the phone for you. This is called the Maxx 2, and it comes from Verizon Wireless, made by Motorola, but it is exclusive to Verizon Wireless here in the United States, so you cannot really get this on another carrier. It costs $384, but the battery lasts a really long time. So I first charged this up on November 6th. I kind of let it sit idle for a little bit, and then I've been using it kind of in a casual way over the last day and a half or so, and I still have almost 2 days left on the battery before I have to charge it again. So it's really well suited for long-term battery life. It's got a big battery inside. Surprisingly, it's not that heavy. It actually feels lighter than the Moto X Pure edition that I'm going to be comparing it to over the course of this review. So pretty lightweight considering how much battery life you get out of it. Now, they did take some things out of this phone that are in the similarly priced Moto X Pure edition. So this costs $384 from Verizon. The Moto X Pure edition costs $399. These are both phones equipped with 16 gigabytes of onboard storage. This one has a better processor and more memory. This has 3 gigabytes of RAM. This one only has 2. But what they have done here to give you more battery life beyond putting in the larger battery is they stripped the display resolution down. So this is a 1080 by 1920, basically a full HD display compared to the Quad HD on the Moto X Pure edition. What that means is that the phone doesn't have to work as hard to put pixels on the screen, and that of course reduces the load on the battery. And it looks actually pretty nice. You get 400 pixels per inch, which is still far into Retina quality as far as not being able to see dots on the screen. So very sharp display. It is IPS, so you've got decent viewing angles on it. And at that dot pitch, that 404 ppi, it's better than my iPhone 6 is as far as overall screen resolution. It's hard for me really to discern the difference between the 520 on this one and the 400 on this one and the 300 and change on this one, but it really does look pretty nice, even though it's not the full Quad HD that everybody's pushing on their phones lately. But the Maxx 2 does have a lot of the Motorola specific features that we've covered in our review of the Moto X Pure edition. So you can talk to the phone just by summoning it up with a voice command. You can also do some of the gesture controls on it as well. The only thing it doesn't have is the ability to wake the phone by just waving your hand in front of it. It lacks those sensors. So you can move the phone to wake it up, but you can't just wave your hand in front of it. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same Motorola experience we've seen across all of their latest phones. You can check out my review of the Moto X Pure edition to see exactly how all of those features work. Another thing you're going to be making a sacrifice on is processor power. So this has a Snapdragon 615. The Moto X Pure edition has the Snapdragon 808. So this is more than twice as fast in some of the benchmark tests that I have run on this phone. So you're not going to be getting the best gaming performance out of here, but if all you're doing is playing like Candy Crush or Fruit Ninja or something, you're still going to have a very good gaming experience on here. It's when you get into the higher end stuff that is more graphical and CPU intense, those are the things that will put a bit of a strain on it. Now in the 3D Mark benchmark test, I got a score of 8,021, and that measures how well the phone can perform doing some of those higher end 3D tasks. So it really is a lot slower than many other phones that we have looked at recently here on the channel, but those phones don't get the battery life that this one does. Now the other thing that battery decision is going to take a toll on is the camera. So now this camera will shoot 21 megapixels just like the camera on the Moto X Pure edition does, but you lose the ability to record 4K video on this. So it will do 1080p video at 30 frames per second, and that's it. It doesn't do the slow motion video. It also doesn't do the higher resolution 4K video, but the still photos still look every bit as good as they do on the other phone here. So I'm very impressed with the photo quality out of these Motorola cameras here, and you can see a good example of a few shots I took out in the back porch today with this phone. So you really will get a nice camera experience for the money here. So decent camera, just lacking some of the higher end features that you'll see with a phone with a faster processor. So those were some of the things they stripped out of there. You also lose the front facing flash for the selfie camera, but the selfie camera on here is still a 5 megapixel camera, so still very good. And again, on par with this one, just no flash for when you're indoors taking selfies. Another thing it doesn't have are stereo speakers in the front. So this will be your headset speaker when you have the phone up to your ear. The speakerphone and video audio and music output will just come out of this lower speaker, not in stereo. So the Moto X Pure Edition gives you stereo left and right separation. This one is just a mono speaker here at the bottom. It does have on the bottom, though, a turbocharger like the other phones do, so you can very quickly charge this battery if and when it does finally die on you. So you do have the ability to quickly charge this up when you need to, which in my mind actually kind of eliminates the need for having such a big battery. I'd almost rather have the faster processor, maybe lose half a day of battery knowing that I can really restore the charge on this within probably 45 minutes or less from a completely dead state. Those chargers really charge this phone up very, very quickly. Now, if you aren't happy with only 16 gigabytes of onboard storage, because that's what this comes with, you can expand it by putting an SD card into where the SIM card slot is on there. So there is some way to augment its onboard storage. You can store media, photos, videos that you're taking onto that card to alleviate some pressure on the internal memory. Very shortly, I believe these phones are going to be updated to Marshmallow, which is the next version of Android, and I believe that version will allow you to install apps onto the card also. So if the the onboard storage limitations are an issue, I think in a couple of months you'll probably have the ability to move those apps onto other storage devices there. So there really isn't all that much more to talk about with this phone. It's kind of a basic transportation model with a very, very big battery, and that kind of lends the question, is this a good value at $384? Now, what's happening in the mobile industry here in the United States is that the carriers are getting away from locking you into a contract and basically selling you the phone outright, or you can almost do an interest-free lease with them and pay a monthly fee. So I think they're asking about $20 a month for this phone. And the problem, though, is that if you ever wanted to leave the carrier, you really can't with this one, because although it supports other carriers on its 3G bands, the faster 4G LTE bands only support Verizon for the most part. So if you ever were done with Verizon, you're going to have to get a new phone afterward. And that's one of the things I like about the Moto X Pure Edition, is that this one only costs a couple of bucks more. Again, $399 versus $384. This one works on every single carrier out there. Much better display, much faster performance, 4K video out of the back. A lot of the compromises that were made here are not in this phone. The battery life isn't as good. Again, you're going to maybe get through a workday with this one, so you might need to charge it up towards the end of the day, especially if you're using it heavily. But you get a lot more phone that is also compatible with just about any carrier in the world. So if you were to hop on a plane and end up in Europe someplace, you can put an LTE card in here and it will likely work pretty much anywhere, versus this phone, which is really going to be tied into Verizon. So I do like the phone, especially from the standpoint of battery life. Again, they made some decisions to cut out features to get to that nice battery life out of here. So if battery life is important to you and you really plan on staying with Verizon, and battery life is so important that it trumps your performance in gaming and other things you might do on your phone, then this is definitely a good choice. But I do think the Moto X Pure Edition is still probably one of the best values for smartphones right now, given its carrier compatibility and its performance. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the generosity of my Patreon supporters. If you find the channel helpful, you too can contribute for as little as $1 a month. Visit Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more.